Great. All right. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. All right. Well, this is, I'm so happy to be here. This is the second time I've read here, and it's one of the best venues around, I think. So well attended, such attentive, really smart folks. So I'm really pleased to be here. I've been writing these prose poems, which are a real departure for me. They're kind of loose and in big blocks. Let me show you. And I write a lot of formal poems, like sonnets and villanelles, in strict form with rhyme. So this is a real departure for me. So I thought, in honor of why there are words and all these fiction writers in PEG, I would try this today. So I'm going to read two poems. Time them about 3 minutes and 39 seconds each. Here we go. The first one is called Sure You Will, in honor of our theme. Absent. My life has been constructed around the absence of absent. And let me explain. Absinthe is the type of drink one takes in the Alexandria Quartet in Greece. If it was Greece, in Greece or Constantinople or wherever it was, with dark lovers and plaster-walled apartments and seaside towns with views through to the Mediterranean, plaster-shaped yew arches looking out into the blue sea, with persons with mysterious scars and Oxford education slumming in tramp steamers. And my life has been the absence of absinthe sipping, and now it's too late in a way to beat the Midwestern ordinariness out of me, though God, I've tried to. Fled from the suburbs into the urban, and measured my life not by spoons, but by hours spent in holding cells and discussing the finer points of the California determinate sentencing laws in cinder-blocked decor and into plastic telephone receivers, or through circles punctured with holes the voice can travel through. And on and on. And wholesomeness still clings to me like a sticky barcode of wholesomeness DNA. It's not coming off without tearing the cover, so to speak. And why do I think about this today, of all days, well beyond the hours of regret, when there's actually no opening for this possible life in decaying Europe of the post-war era? Any war. And I still dream of it. And it still has this pull. This wandering into the seaside village of Andalusia and renting an overpriced condo and taking Spanish lessons. And I could possibly begin absinthe sipping in earnest, but there's the tyranny side of the absinthe sipping I can see more clearly now. The headaches, dehydration, the, well, it's a little bit like being a drunk and I'm too much of a Puritan. I think and concede the point. But who's being objective? And isn't it funny, haha, how this label can alter everything? Oh, general label transform me. But absent, the conflict you would cause with the 6 different prescription medications I now take that I couldn't imagine at 19. And how did warfarin get into this poem? And one grows accustomed to the new habits. And what did I tell someone? I'm an adrenaline junkie, and cliche junkie too, trial lawyer, competitive, but I did take 3 weeks off once and allowed myself a week in between the 2 scheduled weeks. That was largely unscheduled, except for visiting a few friends and discussing what had been in the middle of their what's happening now, and allowed myself a day or 2 of just walking alone and observing things and talking to strangers. And I like the talking to strangers, picking up odd books about absinthe sipping on a Greek island, and wanting this poem to embody that ideal, so that I'll be in that fishing boat with Allison, discussing the last term at Oxford, and forever bobbing between adulthood and adulthood, bobbing between our inability to commit to anything, me and Allison, that is. The only thing we can commit to is our indifference to the rest of the afternoon, and the eggshell blue sky, and the texture of her dress fabric choice. And yes, fetishizing her dress fabric choice, I admit, with the male gaze. It is after the last war, after all, and there is still time for the idea and the idea of sipping absinthe. So, one more.
Is there absinthe in there?
Not for this one. All right. So this one I've entitled again in honor of our program here, Sure Thing. Sure Thing. Stunned. The disaster just around the corner. My friend had a real disaster following me around a corner on his bicycle and slid in some gravel and broke his hip and was altered forever. Hardware in his body, and when I called his wife and couldn't tell her on the phone how bad it was, but really hadn't taken it all in myself because he was in shock. I was in shock and denial. Watched Being Mortal on PBS tonight about terminal patients and doctors and what the doctors should say to the terminal patients about being terminal. Hint, they should tell you you're dying and get ready for it. There's nothing I can do. The problem is that they were trained like science fiction robots to never admit that anyone was going to die. Like Robbie the robot in Forbidden Planet was incapable of killing a human being, and when ordered to do so, his dome-like head would start sparking, and the antenna-like objects in the place of his ears started to spin wildly. These doctors had to learn the limits of their programming, and I thought, how is it possible now to invite all of these images into our home of the sick and the dying, and the stories about brain tumors and bone cancer, and watch. Breaking news, banality of evil. Tune in for details at 6. For instance, homeless Rupert stood out in the middle of traffic of a 4-lane thoroughfare at rush hour, pushing his shopping basket until he reached the safety of the curb. And a man in a Mercedes pulled out of a parking garage into said sidewalk of the first part and came within a foot of striking Rupert of the second part, but stopped short. And Rupert looked up at him, carefully considering the suited driver, the $70,000 car, and looked around, and then fell to the ground in front of the Mercedes. Lying quite still, and looking up only periodically to see if anyone was watching. And the suited man got out, and not knowing what else to do, is softly telling Rupert to get up. But Rupert is very practiced at, very good at not getting up. Has been not getting up for years. And pedestrian traffic has stopped. And everyone is watching this little drama play out. What will Rupert do? How will the suited man react? Who is now laughing at the man. Not exactly laughing, smiling, and looking up to the heavens in a moment of how can you let this happen? When I'm already late for that dinner engagement in the city, after 63 minor and major decisions and actions I had to navigate today to pay for this Mercedes, and I've actually done nothing wrong. The suited man is wearing a kind of I give up sort of smile, and also a smile for Rupert's audacity. We'll leave this scene for a moment and leave you in suspense about the actual outcome of this confrontation, to let you know that in another year's time, Rupert is sleeping under the bridge behind the parking garage, and the man in the Mercedes is he's on his back in a hospice dying from cancer. Soon to be eulogized to a packed house at Allen Temple Baptist by the professional eulogizers. By that I mean all of us, because we can't help ourselves. Banality of evil, details at 6. But moving back in time, sing a song for at least one answered prayer. Rupert, who after only a minute and 32 seconds of prostration and the contemplation of the comforts about to be received by him from the settlement of his lawsuit for imaginary injuries, did get up from the pavement, got up, and pushed his cart away. Thank you.